Hey everyone, Cyan here. Today I want to talk a little bit about some history, some reflection on the StarCraft WCS system. I was streaming the other day over on twitch.tv/Cyan Esports, a fun place where fun people hang out and have fun times. And I was talking to some people in the chat, and we eventually got to the topic of why StarCraft went into decline, what are the prospects for StarCraft in the future, because, you know, you can't be a diehard StarCraft fan without thinking, oh god, what if the game dies once every 10 minutes? But it was a good discussion, it was fruitful, and at one point somebody raised the idea that back in 2013, well, Blizzard was really between a rock and a hard place. You know, it's hindsight's 2020 now and all the other cliches, but there was no real way to know in 2013 and back in the day that region locking was the right choice. And yeah, we know now, in 2013 the scene probably should have been region locked, but there was no way to know at the time. I understand why someone would think that and why someone would say that, but I actually disagree. Looking back at WCS in 2013, WCS America in particular, I think it's really blatant to see that StarCraft needed a change and needed region locking. I'm going to focus on WCS America for the next couple of minutes. In WCS Season 1, there were 16 players who were from the Americas, that is North America and South America. Of the 32 players that qualified, only 16 of them were actually from the region that they were playing for. And before anybody jumps on me, no, I am not counting Moonglade and Snoot and Sen. I am not counting them as Americans, because they're not Americans. They're not from the American region. So to have them in WCS America, well, quite frankly, to me, in my opinion, it's just as bad as having the Koreans. Remember, guys, my thing is the importance of nationality to a casual fan base and the importance of building those storylines. So when we look at the top 8 for WCS America, we see that Snoot and Moonglade are the only representatives who aren't from Korea. And while that's a little better than having just 8 Koreans, the fact that the top 8 for WCS America is made up of entirely people who aren't from that region is really bad, and that says bad things. In Season 2, there was actually less representation for the Americas, as only 9 players were from the region that they were actually playing in. Representation in the top 8 got a little bit better, as Scarlet managed to take the 3rd, 4th spot, and Minigun showed up in the 9th, 12th. But still, once again, that means that 10 players in the top 12 spots are not from America while they're playing for the WCS American Championship. This continues on into WCS 2013 Season 3, where things actually get a little bit worse. Although the numbers stay the same, there are still 9 people playing in this league from the continents that they were supposed to be from, theoretically. Unfortunately, the entirety of the top 8 was made up of people from Korea/China, Maxed sliding in there for 7th, 8th spot, and the highest finishing North American player was Scarlet in the 9th through 12th. So you might ask yourself, why is this necessarily bad? Well, it's bad for a couple of reasons. First off, like I keep saying in many of these videos now, the importance of nationality is great, it's a big deal. Casual fans identify with their nationality. Casual fans will identify with the players who are sporting the flag of the area that they come from. That's just a fact. If you're born in Toronto, then you're more likely to tune into the Stanley Cup Finals if the Toronto Maple Leafs ever get there. If you're in Russia and America, well, you're more likely to tune into the Olympic Finals between Russia and America. Quite frankly, that's just how it works, and to think otherwise is a little naive. Second of all, it kind of reflects badly on the brand. The StarCraft II World Championship Series is by name a World Championship, with the goal of having players from all over the world. Now, this is a point of contention that a lot of people will disagree with. A lot of people will say, well, it's not about having world representation, it's about seeing the best players in the world. This is a 1v1 game. Nationality doesn't matter at all. Well, no, I disagree. I think for WCS America and WCS Europe and WCS Korea, it does absolutely matter where the players come from. They're playing for the title of best player in America, so it should matter where they're from. Finally, we see that during this time period, WCS Korea didn't really have the same issue as WCS America. Much more European players qualified for that league and played in that league, and there was much more representation for all nationalities of Europe. And I believe that that played a role in why WCS Europe had higher viewership on average than WCS America. At the time, lots of people were saying, yeah, it was a better time slot. but I think at the end of the day, nationality was playing a role in the viewership for WCS EU. So that's WCS 2013, that's the 2013 season. So Blizzard looked at that, they looked at the results from their tournament, and nothing really changed in a consequential way. For WCS 2014, in WCS America Season 1, we're back at a point once again where 9 players of the 32 players who qualified are actually from the American regions. We have 4 Americans, 4 Canadians, and 1 Mexican as major. In the results, once again, we see people from the American regions being totally locked out of the top 8 spots. That's unfortunate, that's bad. Once again, that's bad for the casual audience. So Blizzard looked at their 2013 season and they didn't make enough changes and they let it go on. So you might ask yourself, what makes this a topical discussion? What makes this anything beyond just circle jerking about why StarCraft died? Well, right now, this week, the Neo Star League is running. The Neo Star League is a Chinese event organized by Neo TV, and the Neo Star League International Tournament features many foreign players. There are 16 players in the league, and half of them, 8, are foreigners, not from China. The American scene and the European scene is just generally strictly better than the Chinese players are at StarCraft 2. So looking at the results for this tournament, 3 of the 4 groups have been completed, and of the 6 players who have qualified, only 2 of them are Chinese. This is another example of hindsight not really being 20/20. This is an example of hindsight being 100% clear. If Neo TV wants to see StarCraft grow and grow their product in China, then I think, to me, all of the numbers say, well, they should have just had this as a Chinese league. Having said that, I don't really know this Chinese scene as much as the foreign scene necessarily. It's entirely possible that Neo TV wanted to bring in these foreigners like Scarlet and Bly and Parting and build them up as personalities in the Chinese scene and hope that they would spark some interest. And again, not knowing the Chinese people and not knowing the Chinese media as much, I am making an assumption here, but I feel like it's a rather safe one. I don't think that's the strategy that you should be going with now in 2016. I think that the numbers show having people from the region that you're marketing to is a lot more effective in building your brand than it is to have foreign people come in and try and push your product. I say this all the time, but once again, it doesn't mean anything when players from another region who are on teams from another region, who are sponsored by companies and brands from another region, come into your area and dominate the top spots of your tournament. The business of esports is selling sponsorships so that you can market a product. AT Gaming will not effectively market their sponsors in China. Team Liquid cannot effectively market their sponsors in China. So, as the Chinese teams lose these spots, the teams that are actually there to market to the Chinese audience, the audience that is watching this tournament, they lose the opportunity to push their brand. They lose their opportunity to push their sponsorship. In the quarterfinals right now, there is at least one matchup that will not have any Chinese players. That means that no Chinese products can be pushed in that time slot. Those hours of StarCraft consumed by the fans aren't paying off anybody in China, which affects how easy it is for those Chinese teams to get sponsorships. So again, I'll say I don't think it's a case of hindsight being 20/20 anymore. I think it's a case of companies like Blizzard and Neo TV, in this example, just making a mistake. And I think this is a good example of why the conversation around region locking is still important. That's it for me this week, guys. I'm going to try and get Please Pause to you. I don't know if I can actually do that, though. I'm very busy. I'm interviewing Joe from Nerd Street Gamers very soon. That'll be up this week. And I recently interviewed Zombie Grub in a lengthy, hour-plus long video interview that I was really excited about, and it was very well received. If you haven't checked that out yet, then I would appreciate it. Remember to follow me on twitter.com/Cyan Esports, twitch.tv/Cyan Esports, and right here on YouTube. Also, before I go, I've got some shoutouts to make. There's a new map-making Discord channel for anybody interested in map-making. There's also some cool new assets released, so if you're interested in that, I'm going to link that down below in the description. Please check that out. And also, thanks so much to John Drake on SoundCloud. Thank you for providing me with the backing music for this stuff. I think it really makes a big difference. Go check him out, soundcloud.com/JD1197. Thanks, guys.